Hey friends, it's Tracy. Welcome to today's video. I have an Easter craft collection video to share with you today. I will have some timestamps listed in the description box below so that you can easily hop to and thumb through the entire video. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. I'm so happy that you're here. And yes, let's go ahead and let me show you my country crafts. First up is this Happy Easter Bunny Shelf Sitter. Okay, I'm using one of these little signs that I got from the Dollar Tree. And then to emboss my paper, what I used is my Cuttlebug and a Cuttlebug folder. And what I did, the Cuttlebug is just a handheld crank machine that you can emboss different papers and, different things like that. I used it a lot when I was doing cards and scrapbooking and that kind of thing, but I can't find those embossed tiles at the Dollar Tree. And so I thought, oh well, I'm going to use my Cuttlebug to add some embossing to my paper. And so it worked out great. It gave me a great embossed look for my paper. All right, so then now what I'm doing is just tracing out the paper, and I eyeballed it almost perfect because when I cut it, I didn't measure it, and I was like, oh, that'll work. And so anyway, it's just amazing how we can kind of eyeball things once we get kind of used to doing things. All right, since this has embossing on it, I didn't want to use the Mod Podge heat transfer method because I didn't want it to flatten it out, and so I'm just using my Fabri-Tac glue just to glue that down there in the front. And I got a little ahead of myself. I wanted to paint the sides pink, and I'm using the cactus pink color from Americana. And so then I said, well, I need to go ahead and paint that. So that's what I did. I then added a piece of pink and white buffalo check paper to the back to finish it off. All right, I'm sharing this with you. I was so happy to find this set from Hobby Lobby. It's a neutral color ink, and y'all know, if you've watched my videos for a while, you know that I like to distress and ink around my project. And so now what I'm doing is I am going to be creating my face for my bunny. And so what I do is I just use some coral color paint, and I just put some cheeks on. I use a stencil brush, and I have said I like the more rectangle shape, so I just take that stencil brush and just add some rectangle cheeks. Then I'll just use my marker just to draw some eyes and create the little eyes for my bunny. And I like the more almond shape, that kind of touch at the top. Everyone does their eyes a little bit different, but I'm just kind of sharing my style of what I like to do for my little faces. And then I'll use a thin brush just to make some eyelashes as well as some eyebrows, and then just continue to doodle it up by adding some character to the face with some lines, and then doodling everything up with my black Sharpie marker. I also do some paint splattering, and again, just quickly to paint splatter, what I do is I like to use a stiff brush and a stick, and I run the stick over the brush one time toward my body, and then that projects the paint onto whatever I'm trying to do. And I never go back, like away from my body, because then the paint would go on me. And so I've been getting some questions on that, so I just wanted to clarify for anyone who likes paint splattering and wanted to perfect it a little bit more. For my whiskers, I decided to do some gray whiskers. So I'm just using some of this wire that I had on hand. And I think I got that a long time ago from the Dollar Tree. And what I'm using here to curl it is my curling tool that a sweet friend and follower, y'all have been seeing me use this in lots of my videos. Miss Jan Blackwell sent those to me, and I'm so appreciative. I don't expect it, but it's greatly appreciated it when y'all send me sweet happy mail that, you know, makes my life a lot easier. Anyway, I do have a link for you know, where you can find those. A look in the description box below, and I love them. They're like 4 different sizes, and so depending on how tight I want my curls will depend on how tight you know, or which rod I'm going to use. All right, so what I did is I just drilled, just used my electric drill and just drilled a hole where I, you know, like where the nose is going to go. And then I stuck all of those wires in there. And then I have a 20M size half wood bead that I also painted in that cactus flower pink. And so then that is what is going to, I'm going to glue everything down right there. And you know, the black would have shown up a little bit more, but in person, the gray gives me those gray whiskers that I like. And so then I just drew a little mouth with my ultrafine Sharpie marker. Now for the ears, I've decided I want this bunny to be a little simple and not get over, you know, with the, you know, making the ears and stuff. So I'm just using some white floral wire, just, you know, bent them in the ear shape. And then I just took my electric drill and drilled 2 holes there at the top. And then to give myself a little more time, you know, because hot glue dries so fast, I use my Fabri-Tac glue and that, you know, put it in that hole. And then I just bent my wire, you know, in their ear shape that I want. And then I just stuck them in there. And that Fabri-Tac glue gave me, you know, the time that I needed to, you know, get the size and the shape of the ear that I wanted. For the bow, I'm just pulling out just different things that I like to use, just some different size ribbon. I have some fabric, I have some trims, some pom-poms, and you know, just different ribbons that I like. So I just crisscross them like in an X pattern and just layer them the widest to the skinniest. That's usually how I do it. And then I just secure everything with a pipe cleaner. For the center of the bow, I'm going to make a small felt flower, and I'm just going to share here real quick how I make my felt flowers. I just cut off a square of the felt, and then I fold it in half and then fold it in half again, and then I just take my scissors and round off the corners, and so that I have kind of like a, you know, somewhat of a circle or whatever. And then I just start somewhere, and then depending on how wide or how tall I want my flower will depend on how big I am going to cut my spiral. And so I'm moving my felt versus my scissors, and so then I get a spiral. And so then where that point is, that's where I'm going to start. And so I just put some glue on there, and then I just start rolling the flower on top of each other. And then I'm just kind of pushing it and scrunching it together, and you know, giving it a dot of hot glue as I go along until I get the flower shape that I want. And so honestly, this flower I should have cut my spiral a little bit thinner because once I was making my flower, it was a little bit too tall. So once I finish, or I got the size of the flower that I wanted, because I only wanted a little small flower there for my little Benny. And so then what I did is once I got it all done, then I ended up cutting like it in half, and I hope that makes sense, you know, like in half the width of it, or the tallness, the height of it. And so then that gave me, you know, it's a little bit more closer, you know, I didn't want it to stick out so far, so that's why I cut it down a bit. I'm starting with this truck that I've got, you know, several years ago from the Dollar Tree, and I just took off. It came with like a metal leaf on there, and then this is the paper I'm going to use to be covering it. It came from Hobby Lobby, and I just traced that out, cut it out, you know, to match the front of the truck. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint around the edges of the truck. I'm going to do black for the tires, and then I just go around the truck just with some pink color. This is an Americana paint. Cactus Flower is the name of the paint that I'm going to use, just so that if, you know, my paper gets off just a bit, you know, I have those ends painted. All right, so I'm going to use the Mod Podge heat transfer method, and how I do that is just take some Mod Podge, and I pay special attention to go around the edges, and then once it dries, then I'm going to use some I'm just going to use my iron and some parchment paper just for like protection, and then I just, you know, heat transfer that paper on to this truck. Now I'm going to paint on the back glass as well as the bumper, and I'm using the color Slate Gray. It's an Americana brand as well, and I'm just kind of, you know, sharing, you know, just the brands that I like to use and the colors that I like to use. And so I think this took like 2 coats, and I just, you know, painted that on, just kind of freehanding that, not really drawing it out, but just kind of figuring out where all of that goes. And then what I'll do is I'll just take my paintbrush, my flat brush, and do some shading around the edges just to give it some definition. And I like to shade by using a 1/2 inch flat paintbrush and some clean water, and I dip half of my brush in paint, the other half in clean water, and then I blend on the paper towel and go around my edges like that. And so then for the tires, what I do is I do the same thing with white and just shade around, and then I'm going to use my fan brush, just a few bristles of my fan brush, just to give it some treads of the tires. And that's what I've been doing for several years, and I just like it. You know, it just really makes those little tires pop. And so then just to give it a little shimmer to my back glass, what I'm going to use is this shimmering silver paint that I get from Hobby Lobby. It's in the, you know, acrylic paint section. And so then what I do is I give, you know, just different parts, just kind of highlighting it, just to give it a reflection in my glass, and as well as my bumper. So then once all the paint is dry, what I'll do is I'll just take my liner brush and just give it some character with just some white lines, and then I will doodle everything up with my fine Sharpie marker. For my tailgate, what I'm going to use is one of these wood slats that you can get in a pack in, wherever they're sold, and also some baby pink Americana colored paint. I'm also using 4 tumbling tower blocks just to give it some height, and I painted my wood, all of the wood, with 2 coats of the baby pink, and then I'm going to go in with white acrylic paint just to, give it the background so that I can do my lettering. I will add a border around it with some of that white paint. I will also, on the sign, I will just add some stripes with some of that slate gray paint just to give it some, character and definition and cuteness of what I like to do for my projects. Then I'm going to hand letter it using a black paint pen. This is a Posca pen. It's the largest one, and I get that from Amazon. That's where I find them. They're in my Amazon store, and then I shade everything either with the white or the slate gray paint. And for my lettering, I do like to put happy dots on my lettering, and I have found a free font from dafont.com. I will link to that as well if anyone is interested in downloading that font and practicing and that kind of thing. And I appreciate you loving my happy dots as much as I do. Now I'm going to add some black paint splatters, and I do that just using a stiff brush and a stick, and I just pull the stick across the bristles one time toward my body so that the paint projects onto my project. And then I went back and added just some highlights, just using some of the white paint just to, give it just a little bit of highlight. Now, when I use the Posca pens, they do tend to smear, so this is the sealer that I like to use for sealing those signs. Now, I'm going to add some of these small wooden eggs. I painted up 5 of those in just this pink, white, and that slate gray color. And then these are the paints that I'm using just to decorate. I was just kind of going with a little color scheme here, and so I just did like zigzags and dots and stripes and just all kind of cute stuff just to make them look cuter. And then those are what I'm going to stick into my tailgate. So what I'm doing to prepare my tailgate is I just have some floral foam that I just cut down, and then I glue those jingle blocks just to give it, some height, and then that's what I'm going to glue onto the back of the truck. And then the styrofoam, that is what I stick into, my flowers and my eggs are going to stick into. I also added some fine Excelsior, which I like to do. These are the florals that I'm using. They either came from Hobby Lobby, Walmart, or Dollar Tree. And so there you can see I have the fine Excelsior stuck in there. It gives a whimsical look. And so then I just kind of went through here, and just as I added the flowers, I just kind of showed you as I built them rather. And I just really love these little teal turquoise mini roses that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. And then everything just is just tying so well together. I'm just so happy with it. Now for the eggs, what I did is I have these skinny wooden sticks, and so instead of painting them, I'm just using some washi tape and some gray and then some pink. I just wrap some washi tape around them just to give it a little character, and then I cut them down a bit so that they wouldn't, you know, like they would fit the height that I wanted in my truck. And so then, you know, it just ties everything together, and I just love this sweet little spring happy Easter truck. For the tail lights, what I'm using are two 20M split balls that I get from Amazon. And so I'm trying a new method or how to paint my split balls. I saw my friend Alyssa from Southern Crafts Corner do this. I thought it was genius. And so I just put a dot of hot glue on there, and then I'm just painting around them. It worked beautifully. Thank you, Alyssa, for showing how you do and paint your split beads. Anyway, I love the way that this truck turned out. Now, guys, I have a dilemma, and I've asked for y'all's help. There at the bottom where the tire was, I need something cute to say there. So give me your suggestions in the comments. Let me know what you would put there. And yeah, because I want something cute. I've got some suggestions already, but I wanted to ask my community to give me some more of what you would put there. Anyways, I love the way that this turned out, and I hope that you do too. For this project, I'm making a Happy Easter egg door hanger using one of those eggs from the Dollar Tree. Now this has some glitter on it, so I'll be sanding that off. I'm also using all of the paper that I'm using today is from this paper stack that I got from Michael's a few years ago, but there are friends that still have it. They told me they still have it. All right, so what I did is I sanded off the majority of the glitter, and then I wiped it off, you know, as best I could. And so then now I'm just kind of cutting these papers down so that I can tear them. I'm going to tear the edges, and I did tear both edges, not thinking, hey girl, why are you even wasting your time? Because one of them was going to be covered up. So I just, you know, wanted a torn edge, and I only really needed to tear one of the edges. So I'm going to start laying them out the way that I kind of want them on my egg. And then I said, oh, I want to distress the edges. So I pull out my vintage photo distressing ink, and I distress the edges, you know, to give it a rustic touch to it. And so I just use that with my little finger dauber and my little vintage photo ink, and just do that. Yeah, if you've been following me for any length of time, you have seen me do this already. Now, I do want to share one of my mess ups that I did. I'm just going to attach the paper with some double-sided tape. This is my adhesive tape glider that it just has, you know, adhesive tape, and I've had it for many years. I got it from Michael's. I do have it in my Amazon store, but as you can see here, I'm working at an angle, you know, not working upside down, you know, not upside down, right side up, like right in front of me. And so when I put my paper on, guess what? My paper was sideways, silly girl. And so I ended up, you know, pulling all of that off and then kind of having to start over once I realized that my paper was going crooked. And so, once I realized that you need to put your egg in front of you so that you can see and make it straight. So I'm just sharing if you do a project like this, that you don't make my mistake. for the hanger for my egg, I'm going to use some beads from this garland that I picked up after the fall season from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to be using 5 of those beads. I love the color of them already. I don't have to do anything to them. And then I just make a loop and going to tie that off so that, you know, it kind of stays. And then that loop is what I will hang on my hanger. And then I'm going to just cut off some of it. And then let me know your tips of how do you get the jute through your beads. I mean, is there a trick that I haven't seen yet? Because I usually use just Scotch tape, but you know, sometimes if the jute is thinner, I can just slide it through there with no problem. But I really struggle with getting jute through the you know, little holes of the beads or the balls, you know. And anyway, so then I just tied it off in a knot about 3 or 4 times so that it would, you know, be secure. All right, so then now I'm going to make a messy bow for this, and I love this jute ribbon that I got. I don't know what it's called. I guess it's ribbon from Hobby Lobby in the spring section. And so guys, I just cut off just, you know, different strips of burlap, and I have just different laces and trims and all of that fun stuff. Just pulled out colors from this egg and just, you know, layering them all. Then I'm going to gather all of that together. I also have just some extra strings from burlap that were kind of like hanging out. And I'm like, you know what? I love that. It just makes my messy bow a little bit messier. And so I just gather it all together. I secure everything with a pipe cleaner. And then I use my needle nose pliers to get a really good, you know, tight, you know, tightness to the back. And then I just attached it to, you know, glued it on to the corner of my egg. And I love the way that this is turning out. I hope you do too. I also added some fine Excelsior into the middle of the bow just to add a bit more whimsy. And then I had made one of these felt flowers. It's like a peachy, pinky kind of tint. And I just put that there in the middle, and I just think it looks really pretty. All right, now I'm going to make just a small sign. I'm just going to hand lettered with my fine Sharpie marker, Happy Easter. I put my happy dots on there. I also you know, give it the torn edges just to give it the jagged edge. I'm going to use that same vintage photo distress ink and, you know, just kind of roughen it up a little bit, just the way that I like. And then I'll attach it to my sign just using some pop dots or foam dots, photo dots, whatever you call them. I just glued those on the back just to give it a little bit of height. So I glued the smaller sign on there and thought that, oh, okay, this project is complete. So when I was doing the pictures and, you know, setting it up for my video, I'm like, oh gosh, girl, that is too small. So I went back and took that small sign off. I did a little bit larger one. I just hand lettered Happy Easter. I'm going to do the same technique as far as doodling around and adding some vintage photo distressing ink. I will crinkle it up to give it that aged look, and then I will attach it to the front of my sign with some of those foam dots just to give it some height. And I love this sign a little bit better. So it just really, you know, I don't really know what I was thinking, but once I put it on there and was taking my pictures for the video, I'm like, oh no, that little sign is too little. So that's why I went back and made another sign for the egg, and also I had just put little commas or just little white highlight in each of the happy dots, which I forgot to do on the little small one. So I'm glad that I redid it, and I hope that you do too. Hey friends, if you like little crafts like this, please follow or subscribe to my channel so that you won't miss any upcoming videos. Okay, for this cute project is a bunny hop decor piece that I created using one of these wood pieces from the Dollar Tree, and I'm also going to be using the Mod Podge heat transfer method. And first I put a coat of Mod Podge on the wood bunny. I paid special attention to the edges just to make sure that they were all nice and covered so that I wouldn't have any of my paper come up. So I want to capture a specific part of the paper, so I just take my pen, something that I can see, and then just carefully draw around the bunny, and then I will cut it out with scissors, and then that is what I'm going to Mod Podge on to my wooden bunny. If you are not familiar with the Mod Podge heat transfer method, what it is I put a layer of Mod Podge on my wood bunny and it completely dried. I had my heat gun or my heat tool to help it along so that it's completely dry. And then I'm using my mini heat press that I bought from Cricut, and I'm just using that as an iron, but a regular iron or other mini iron may work. And just using some parchment paper, and I make sure that my paper is on the bunny secured, and then I heat it up and pay special attention to the edges. And since I've been doing this, I do not have any paper peel up. For the banner of in front of my basket, what I started with is this piece of burlap. Now this burlap is just a strip that I've had left over from a previous project, and it already has Mod Podge on it. I like to put Mod Podge on my burlap to make it a bit stiffer. And so then I just took just some cardstock and just made me a template for a small banner, little pennant, and then I'm gonna trace this out. I found that a fine Sharpie marker shows up best for me, so I trace this out and then just cut it out so that it'll be ready. I'm going to paint just a part of the banner just to give it some pink color, and it's going to look really cute on the front of my basket. Now for the letters, what I'm using is these I just got these letters from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just using this purple color. It's the color lavender, and I just gave that one coat of lavender color paint, and then I'm going to go back and add just some white highlight to the letters because that's what I like to do, just to make them pop. For the banner, I'm using this pink color. It is an Americana brand. Poodle Skirt Pink is the name of this pink. So I just took my 1/4 inch flat paintbrush and just went around kind of in the center just to give it some pink color. I am not going all the way to the end, as you can see. I'm just going around just to kind of fill in the middle of that banner. And then I will just glue the letters onto the front of the banner. These small baskets came from Hobby Lobby during the fall season, and I love them because it looks like little bushel baskets to me. And what I didn't do anything to the basket. I left it the color that it is, and so then I'm just going to glue these pennants to make the banner to spell HOP on the front of the basket. To finish off the edges of the banner, I just made a 2-loop bow just with some jute that I got from the Dollar Tree, and then I just glue that to the ends of each of the banner just to look like it's all tied together. To decorate my basket, I'm just using a block of this styrofoam that I like to get from the Dollar Tree when I can find it. I just glue that in, and then to cover it up, I'm just using this fine Excelsior. I love this fine Excelsior. It's kind of like Spanish moss, and I have the best luck finding it at Joann's craft store. And what I do is just cover up that styrofoam and just push it into the basket, just trying to, bring it down so that I don't see any of the green of that styrofoam. And then this is what I'm going to stick my florals in. Now, this greenery with the small purple flowers came from Hobby Lobby, of course, and it just says floral on it. There's no, specific name or anything. So I just cut off sticks of this, or sprigs of this rather. And this particular greenery comes with the little white flowers, these purple flowers, yellow, and I think pink. And I cannot wait to get some of those other colors as well. And so then I just continue just to put these little sprigs of this greenery with the purple flower in until I like the look of it. And then I'm going to attach the basket to my bunny, but I want to make sure that my bunny stands up and that, everything is, proportioned so that he doesn't lean one way or the other. So I just hot glue that basket to the front of the bunny. Actually, I used a combination of E6000 and a bit of the hot glue just to make sure I got a permanent hold. And then those white baby's breath, I got those from Walmart, and then I cut off a few sprigs of those and stuck that in there, and it was perfect for this little bunny. For the bow at the top of her ear, what I did is I just cut off some strips of just burlap, and I have this purple small dot polka dot ribbon that I got from Hobby Lobby. I love that so much. It's perfect for the spring and Easter season. And I also have some just different ribbons and lace. This one is glittery, and then I have some lace that I got also from Hobby Lobby. Probably most of these came from Hobby Lobby or either Walmart. I think that white and pink pom-pom ribbon I got from Walmart. And so I just crisscross those until I like the look. And then I get the best hold with a pipe cleaner. So I just put a pipe cleaner around it, and I'm not too worried about it, that you're going to see the pipe cleaner, because I'm going to, glue a cute flower to the center of this messy bow. These flowers came from nowhere else but Hobby Lobby in the Easter section. And so I just went through and just picked out one that I liked and just glued it there in the center of that bow. And I think it is the perfect addition to this bunny HOP Decor piece that I created. This project I'm calling my bunny platter decor because I am starting with one of these rectangle gold platters. Well, it doesn't matter. This one is from the Dollar Tree. I gave it 2 coats of the plaster color chalk paint. I just feel that it, sticks a little bit better to these plastic trays. Then to give it a border, what I'm going to use is some Poodle Pink paint by Americana. This is just Americana paint, and I'm also using my fan brush, and I'm just going to go around the edges just to give it a border. Now I put some paint on it, and I don't want it to be too clumpy. I want it to be more of lines, so I just kind of spread that off a little bit, and then I'll just continue to go around the gold platter with the paint. I just used an end of a large paintbrush just to dip it into that pink paint and put some dots in between the lines just to give it a more decorative touch. Now I'm going to do some splatter paint, and I'm just using that same poodle skirt pink and just giving it some splatter. Then I'm going to go back and use an acrylic paint granite gray. Now that granite gray is a apple barrel that you can get almost anywhere, but I like the combination of the two colors with for my paint splatters. The paper for the inside of that tray is from this paper pack from Hobby Lobby, and what I did, I just you know, kind of formed it around so I could kind of get an average of where I needed to cut it, and then I just used my trimmer just to cut it down. I did have to go and, you know, cut it down a couple of times because I wanted to make sure that it fit correctly. I took my fine Sharpie marker and just went around the edges just to give it some doodling of what I like to do. Just kind of gives a border, and I really feel that the black marker makes it pop. Then once that was all dry, I gave it a coat of just my gloss varnish that I like to use, and then once that was dry, what I'm going to do is to attach the paper, I'm just going to use the Mod Podge heat transfer method. That is my favorite method to do right now. So I'm just using some regular Mod Podge. Make sure that that is completely dry. I use my heat gun, my heat tool, or a hair dryer would work as well, just to make sure that that is all dry. And I'm using my little Cricut mini press, and it's just a little iron, and then that brown paper is parchment paper. I just go over it. It kind of acts like a barrier just to just protect everything. And so then now we're just ready to go into our next part of the project. I'm going to paint my little bunny. Now this wood bunny is from the Dollar Tree, and I gave it 2 coats of just white acrylic paint, and then I'm going to make a cute little face on it. Okay, I'm using a 1/2 inch flat paintbrush and some clean water and that granite gray paint. I dip half of my brush in paint, the other half in clean water, and then I blend on a paper towel. Then I'm just going around the edges just to give it, you know, some color and definition. And then once that is all done, then I'm going to use that poodle skirt pink paint and a stencil brush, and it just gives some color to the ears as well as the cheeks. I like the more rectangle up and down cheeks, so that's why I'm stippling it on like this. And then once I finish with that, I let that completely dry, and then I'm going to go back and just with a very loved, very thin liner brush. I've had this brush for many years. It's missing some bristles. The handle is broken. It's just my favorite brush to make little lines like this on my projects. And so I'm just putting in some lines and just, you know, just giving it some character. And then to create the eyes for my bunny, I like to start out by using a marker first, and I like the more almond shaped eyes, and you could use the end of a paintbrush. You could use whatever style of eyes that you like. And so I usually start with a marker, and then I go back in and fill it in with paint. And so these eyes were just a little small, so then I go ahead and get a brush and make them a little bit bigger. Then I'm going to use my favorite brush, my little thin missing bristles, you know, little liner brush, and make some you know, characters to the face by adding some eyelashes, some eyebrows. And then I'm also going to use a stylus that I got from the Dollar Tree to make some freckles. But before I do that, I'm going to take my flat paintbrush and that granite gray paint and just shade around the cheeks and the inside of the ears, just to kind of bring it out, bring those colors out a little bit more. Then I will use my ultra fine Sharpie marker and just go around the outside of the bunny just to doodle him up and give him some cuteness of what I like. I also go around the cheeks and the inside of the ears. I gave my bunny some paint splatter with black, and then once that was completely dry, I just, gave it a coat of my favorite gloss varnish. Now, before I put my nose on, I wanted to put a hole in the bunny. I'm using my paper piercer for that. And also that wire is from the Dollar Tree. I cut off 6 small, pieces of the wire, and then I'm using my curling iron tools that a sweet friend and follower, Miss Jan Blackwell, sent to me. They have 4 different sizes. It has a little slit in this tool. You just slip your wire in there and then it goes around. I do have a link for where you can get these now. I will have the link for it in the description box. All right, so then to put the wires in my bunny, I had to make my hole a tad bigger, and so I did that with my my little poker tool, my little paper piercer, that's what it's called. Anyway, so I stuck all 6 of those in there, and then I'm using one of these glittery hearts stickers from the Dollar Tree from the Valentine's season, and that is what is going to be my bunny's nose. And then once I have my nose placed, then I take my ultrafine Sharpie marker and just draw him a cute little mouth. And I like to get my nose on first before I draw a mouth because just for placement purposes and all of that stuff. Now, I had used the Scrabble tiles to spell out Happy Easter, and I just am sharing it. This is how I sort my Scrabble tiles. I just put them in little jewelry, plastic bags, and that keeps them, all the different letters. I have 26 of them, one for each letter of the alphabet, and it just helps me find my letters better. Okay, so I spelled out Happy Easter, and what I'm doing now is I'm giving them a coat of gloss varnish, that gloss varnish that I always use, and that is because I am going to put some happy dots on these Scrabble letters. And so by giving it like a sealer, then my black Sharpie marker doesn't bleed. I had tried it out on one of them, and it kind of bled a little bit as far, kind of like the marker ran a little bit. So, but if I put just a thin coat of the gloss varnish on there, then it doesn't bleed, and I am very happy. Then I took my ultrafine Sharpie marker and just went around the edges and gave it some doodling. Now, guys, this is just my preference. This is what I like to do, and I am so glad and honored that the Lord has sent me so many sweet friends that love this style of crafting as well. Now, to enhance the dots on my happy dots, I just use just a white paint pen and just go in each of the dots and just kind of make some pop. I just feel that it makes the letters pop. Then I'll just arrange them on the my little platter here, and I kind of had to get a little creative with the Easter part because the letters I had to make sure that they all fit on there, and I'm just adhering them with some hot glue. And then for the bunny, I wanted to give him some dimension, so I'm just using 3 Jenga blocks or tumbling tower blocks and just gluing that on the back of my bunny just to give him some dimension. I like to get these garlands from Hobby Lobby and then take them apart and use the little picks that are individual I can use them in my decorations. All right, so I'm going to be using some of this fine Excelsior. Y'all have seen me use this many, many times before, and I like to use it kind of like as a barrier, kind of styrofoam kind of thing. And so I'm hot gluing it on, but once I figured out when I'm going to stick my picks in there, I thought, well, I should have put my picks down first, because I had to kind of pull that Excelsior back and make sure that all of it was snug in there. And it kind of acts like styrofoam to me, and it's a bit whimsy, it's a bit country, and I just love it so much. So I just stick 2 of these Easter egg picks in, one on each side, and then I'll just continue to add some Excelsior where I feel that there were holes, and then I'm going to go back and add a couple of more eggs. I just kind of pull those picks apart and just stick them where I think that they look nice. I'm going to make a messy bow for the top, so I just have some of this sheer glittery ribbon. That pink mini polka dot ribbon is from Hobby Lobby. Probably most of these are from Hobby Lobby, and I just cut off 2 pieces and just crisscross them to make an X. I have done this many times before, but if you're new here, welcome. I am so glad that you are here. And so then once I get all of my ribbons or trims laid the way that I want, I gather it in the middle, and then I twist it with a pipe cleaner, and that is what gives me the strongest hold. I have had, some friends say that they use zip ties. I have seen crafters also use jute, but whatever works for you. And I just use my needle nose pliers to give me a good twist. All right, so then I will just, add some hot glue there, and then just put that sweet bow right there at the top. Now, these flowers are felt flowers from Hobby Lobby in the Easter section, and they have some really pretty colors. So I just pulled out the blue one or turquoise one, and just hot glued it there in the middle, and this project is complete. It's just so cute. I just love the way that it turns out. And I hope that you do too. I do put a lot of, steps and a lot of thought into my projects, and thank you for being here. All right, so what I'm showing you here, I am just going to stand this up as a shelf sitter, but if you wanted to have it be a hanger, what you could do is use a pipe cleaner and make sure it's glued on the back. I would probably cover it up with felt or canvas or something else that might give it a little bit more sturdiness, and just to make it more secure. Okay, here is my version of the bunny butt decor. This cute cutout is from the Dollar Tree, and I gave it a couple of coats of this white acrylic paint. Now, initially, I was just going to paint this up really cute and, put it on a sign or a wreath or something like that. But I'm going to share my little mess up so that you don't do it as well. I know you're smarter than me and you will not do it. I forgot to fill up my hole, so I pulled out my wood filler from Walmart, and I spread it around like frosting. I don't know what I was thinking, and I had to leave my project, and so it dried. And so when I went back to it, I'm like, girl, what were you thinking? Because it wouldn't sand off or anything. So plan B. All right, so I took off the feet for the bunny, took off the bunny feet, and then I'm going to take off the bunny tail, and I got those off by with my heat tool and some elbow grease. I mean, these little things are stuck on there tight. Dollar Tree must be using a different glue or something like that, but I did. I stayed with it and got them off, and so we're good to go. All right, so then what I'm going to use then for the fluffiness of my bunny is I'm using these like duster things that you can get in the home section, like cleaning section over at the Dollar Tree. And these packs come in, it has 3 pieces, but one of them is the handle, and then in the package are 2 of the little dusters. And also what I'm showing you there, you can use those little like chamois things from the car section, but I had these on hand and decided to use those. And so I just kind of pulled them apart and just used my scissors just to, you know, kind of cut the like strings that were like in between the little fluffy thing. And then I just used my hot glue to attach them all. The first one I did, I kind of pulled apart just to see how I'm wanting to put this on. But once I got into it a little bit more, I found out that, you know, I could leave them whole and not have to pull them apart, and, you know, just kind of feel around as I go along my bunny. The feet, to give it some shading around the edges, I'm doing my favorite way to shade. I'm using a flat paintbrush and some gray acrylic paint. I dip half of my brush in paint, the other half in clean water. I blend on a paper towel, and then I just go around the edges just to give it some definition. For like the bottoms of the feet for my bunny, I'm just using some half split balls is what I'm using. And these are I have 2 smaller ones and 1 bigger one, and then I just use a piece of painter's tape just to, you know, stick them together. I found this from another fellow crafter and appreciate that. And so I just gave that 2 coats of poodle skirt pink, and then I just gave I used my ultrafine Sharpie marker and just gave the bunny feet some doodling and stuff I love to do. And then also I gave that just a little bit of black paint splattering because I love to do that. And then just to, you know, make sure everything was nice and sealed, I just used my favorite gloss varnish. Now, to give the bunny fluffiness a little bit of definition, I just used that same gray paint and just went around the edges just to give it some, you know, just color around the edges. And I love that it just kind of enhances it just a bit. I decided to add some like paws on the bottom of my feet, and I'm using 2 circles. These are the 2.5-inch circles. They're from the HOP Decor that I got on sale recently from Hobby Lobby. Okay, so I painted them up with 2 coats of the poodle skirt pink, as well as shaded them with the granite gray that I like using. And why I have those 1/2-inch wood balls there is because I had used a different pink previously, and so I wanted them to match. So I went ahead and repainted them so that they would all match. And then I did some doodling around the edges of the paw, and then I'm going to add a Jenga block or tumbling tower block to the bottom of the paw so that I can get some dimension. And so this is what happens when, you know, you do different things on different days. You know, I forget which color I used and that kind of thing. And so doing these video, guys, is a lot of work. I say that humbly. I say that because all glory and honor to the Lord for giving me this platform and this community so that I can share these beautiful crafts with. For the bunny tail, I'm going to use this fabric as well as just some trims and ribbons. I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to make, I don't know, a messy bow. I just had this fabric that I ripped up a little bit thinner and also cut some of the strips of ribbon. And so now I'm just layering them. No really rhyme or reason. I just kind of want to mix them up so that I don't have, you know, so they're just kind of mixed up. And I'm adding in some lace as well as some shimmery ribbon. And then once I gather that the way that I want, I just kind of scrunch it together in the middle, and then I'm going to take a piece of that fabric and then just tie it off in the center. And then what I'm going to need to do is give this little bunny tail a haircut because these are way too long. And so then I like to use my pinking shears to do that because it gives just a little bit decorative edge on the edge of the fabric or the ribbon. And so then once I get that done, then I will just hot glue that into the top of the bunny butt. I decided I wanted to add a bit of a decorative touch to the paws, and so I'm just using some of that pink and white gingham fabric and just cutting out some circles. The first set that I cut was a bit small for my liking, so I went back and cut a couple of larger ones, and I like that a lot better. And so this little bunny butt is complete. I love the way that it turned out. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. You know, maybe have it just stand like this, or just, you know, put it in decor, or maybe a faux plant, because I just love this so much, and I hope that you do too. Okay, these are the supplies I'm using to create this little cute project. This little tin bucket is one I got from Hobby Lobby a few years ago. It is from the spring section. This is the smaller one. And I already put some of the foam in it because I was going to use it for a project, but I ended up, you know, going to the next bucket. And so that's why I'd never used that. I'm going to be using some of these flowers and this greenery, the Spanish moss from Walmart, this brown Excelsior from Hobby Lobby. I'm also going to be using this cross. It's from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be Mod Podging this brown wood paper on it. I'm going to be using my Mod Podge. This is the bunny I'm going to be using out of this pack. And this is the scrapbook paper that I'm going to be using. Now these cotton bowls are scatters and fillers. And so they're individual cotton bowls that I got from Hobby Lobby a few years ago, but I did see them again this year. Anyway, but they're just individual, and I thought it would be cute to include those in it as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me show you how to put this together. Okay, I'm going to be using my antique wax and a baby wipe to stain the sides and the back of each of these wooden items. And then this is how they look after I have them both stained. So now I'm going to trace out my paper and cut it out. Then I'm going to adhere some, brush on some Mod Podge, and then we're going to be using the heat transfer method to attach the paper to my wood cross and my wood bunny. So I do try to figure out what pattern I do want my wood cut out, and I want this pattern. So to make sure that I have it straight, I will trace it out on the front side and then cut it out and then adhere it, because then I know that my checks are straight. I did the same thing with my weathered board paper, but since it had this stand on it, I needed to, I was off camera a bit when I traced it so that I made sure that it was lined up correctly. And so what I'm doing now is just cutting out, just with my scissors, just cutting out this pattern, and then we're going to attach it to the board. If you are not familiar with the heat transfer Mod Podge method, what you do is you put a layer of Mod Podge on your the front of your surface that you want to attach the paper. It has, you know, just a thin layer. It doesn't have to be thick, but I pay special attention to the sides just to make sure that I do have Mod Podge on the sides of my wooden piece, so that once I adhere it down, that it does not come up. I'll use a mini iron. I'm just using my Cricut mini heat press. That is just something that I have on hand, and so I just want to match up my paper to my wood cutout. And then what I do is I use a piece of parchment paper, and then I just iron this on. I do the same thing with this cross, and just using my iron just to make sure that I get all along the edges of my wooden items. Then just using my distress ink and a finger dauber, I am just going to go around the edges, and just to give it just some distressing, and just kind of give it some shading and some shadowing for my cross. I'll do the same thing with my bunny. Next, I'm going to add some doodling with my black Sharpie marker, just going around the edges. I am not being any, like, you know, just kind of making some lines. They're not touching. I don't want them to touch. I like the more whimsical look, and so I feel that this just really kind of adds just the whimsical look to the projects. I will also add some black splattering to my projects, just with this stiff brush, a stick, and some acrylic paint. Then I will go back over it with some white splatters, some white acrylic paint, just to give it some white splatters. It stands out a little bit more on the cross than it does on the bunny, but I know that they're there. For my can, I want to make sure that my ladle, or my handle handle is in the front. It's just a personal preference. And so I'm just taking some of this green moss and just kind of putting it in into the container, just kind of spreading it out a bit before I figure out where I want my cross and my bunny to go. So now I have my cross. So I want my cross to go about right there. And to tack that down, what I'm going to do is I am going to use some hot glue. Just tack that there. And then respread my moss back in there, on there rather. I can use some U pins. These pins are in the floral section if I want some of the pins to kind of hold it down, you know, hold my moss down. Get a little bit more, just like that. For my bunny, I got a Jenga block or a tumbling tower block, and I just glued it to the back. I'm not going to worry about antiquing or staining that because the grass is going to be covering that up anyway. And then I'm just going to glue that down right here so that it looks like my cross is right here and then my bunny is right there. So then this is how our bucket arrangement is looking so far. I'm just putting in pieces of the brown Excelsior moss that I got from Hobby Lobby. Just sticking in a few of those where it kind of looks like dirt or more natural when it comes to a little arrangement like this. As much as I wanted to, I've decided not to use these cotton bowls because I really can't get them to look correctly. So what I'm doing is just snipping off some of these flowers that I got. These I got from Walmart, and these right here, these pink with the greenery, is from Hobby Lobby. So this is how our arrangement is looking so far, just by sticking in those white flowers there, one back here, and then two of the pink right here. Okay, I have one of these tags that I've tea stained. I'm just using my fine Sharpie marker, and I'm going to write "Silly Bunny, Easter is for Jesus." Just used my ultra fine Sharpie marker to add some doodles around the edges of my tag. I'm going to be using these trims and ribbons to make a messy bow. So for my messy bows, what I do is I cut about, I don't know, 3.5 or 4 inches of the ribbon. These are probably cut at 3.5. Anyway, so then I just crisscross them, just kind of layering the widest to the skinniest. And for my messy bows, I don't usually worry about doing a lot of dovetailing. I just kind of cut them off at an angle. Then I get the strongest hold with a pipe cleaner. Some people use jute, some people use, whatever you can get your tightest hold with. I just gather it in the middle, put the pipe cleaner around it. Usually I try to match the color of the project that I'm using. Sometimes I'll use my needle nose pliers to twist it even tighter, so that it gives me that pop that I want for my bow. And so if the pipe cleaner, worries you, I mean, it's okay, because for me, it's not going to bother me because, I can see the pipe cleaner. I can always put a extra piece of lace or something, other kind of ribbon around it, and just tie it in a knot so that it doesn't look, you can't even see it. Just giving options. I've been getting some questions on messy bows, so that's why I'm just sharing these tips that I use for myself. So you can just tie an extra piece of lace or some other kind of ribbon for your bow, and then now you can't even see the pipe cleaner. For my tag, what I did is I put just a little white dot in the happy dots of each of the letters. Then what I'm going to do is just to age it or distress it a bit more, just to make it look old and crumply. I just kind of bended it different ways. And then I'm just going to take my distressing ink, my vintage photo distress ink, that is my favorite, just to go around the edges, just to give it more of an aged look. So I took another U-pen and slipped it underneath the pipe cleaner, and then I'm going to slip the U-pen in between the hole of my tag, and then that's what I'm going to stick into the foam for my tag. Actually, that did not work out the way that I wanted it to, so I just put the one U-pen in the bow, stuck that in, and then I put a separate one here, just stuck it in between the in the hole so that it held my sign. And because the first time the bow kind of covered up my writing and I didn't like that, so then I just kind of pull some of these ribbon tails so it kind of masquerades the U-pen. Friends, I have many more of this style of crafting on my YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed, I would love it if you would check out my channel and maybe consider subscribing. Have a great day. God bless.